Davy Crockett, Jim Bowie, William Travis. They all had their names etched into history at the Alamo, and now so can you. The Alamo is undergoing upgrades and additions that will transform this historic site into a world-class destination, like a state-of-the-art museum, augmented reality experience, and much more. Now, the Alamo needs your donations to meet its goal. You could even have your name on a star at the visitor center, or a personalized paver. So you won't just help preserve Alamo history, you'll become part of it. Donate today at thealamo.org.
Stories bigger than Texas, the Alamo Podcast. The filmmaker behind classic comedies like Airplane and Naked Gun also happens to be a David Crockett enthusiast. After all, the Hollywood heavyweight was raised on watching Fess Parker play the famed Alamo Defender in Walt Disney's Davy Crockett, King of the Wild Frontier. Today we reveal how he's become a collector of Crockett-related artifacts and why he's made the generous decision to donate his collection to the Alamo. I'm your host, Emily Balcom. Today we are joined by filmmaker and author David Zucker. Thanks for coming back on the podcast.
You know, it's always fun to come back to the Alamo.
We appreciate you coming back to the Alamo. Some of our longtime listeners may remember when we first interviewed you in December 2023. For those who haven't heard that episode, tell us how David Crockett really kind of paved the way for your career in the movie business.
Well, you know, I always liked hearing stories, and being a director is being a storyteller. Some of the first stories that really intrigued me were the 1955 Walt Disney miniseries, Davy Crockett, King of the Wild Frontier. So that kind of paved the way for me, for my interest in filmmaking and my interest in history.
You have David Crockett Easter eggs in all your movies.
Well, I don't know about all of them, but there are in quite a few. I think it achieved some kind of a height in Naked Gun 2.5, when I had, pictures of Davy Crockett that were hanging in the White House. And I actually played Davy Crockett in the movie, and my friend Robert Wheel played George Russell. So we were having fun. That was one of the most fun days in my whole career, was that day where I did the Davy Crockett scene.
You had to have had fun, too, when you hosted Davy Crockett festivals at your ranch in California. Tell us about those.
I had a ranch in Ojai, which is about 1.5 hours north and east of LA. It was a 20-acre ranch and had a really broad green lawn there, and we had target shooting, and people came from all over the country, and they were historians, craftspeople, gun nuts, just history buffs.
Fess Parker came one time.
Fess Parker came one time, and we would always have target shooting. Everybody dressed in the period. And I have pictures of this, and everybody dressed in the 1820s, 1830s. And we actually shot flintlock rifles on the front lawn.
So I think all of our listeners can tell you're a bona fide. You are into it. What is it about David Crockett that has resonated with you for all these years?
Everything about him, he was obviously a hero. He was a congressman. He was, for his day, they didn't have sports stars, sports heroes, but he was the biggest athlete of his day because he was a crack rifle shot. So he was renowned for that. And then he was renowned for his comedy. And so that, of course, resonated with me. And Davy Crockett, pranks that he pulled, and things that he said. He was like the Will Rogers, Mark Twain, Ben Franklin, Groucho Marx of his day.
We first had you on the podcast in December 2023 when you loaned the Alamo the last known letter David Crockett wrote before leaving Tennessee for Texas. It created a lot of excitement around here. What was that like for you to see it unfold?
Oh, well, it's an honor for me to have it donated. It's for a long time, I had a replica made of it, and that was hanging in my house, but I didn't trust my house or myself to have custody of that, so it was in a safe deposit box, the actual letter, for 30 years.
The letter is far from the only artifact in your collection. You are donating 28 items, ranging from documents to art. So I'd like to go through a few of them and talk about the stories behind them, like 2 autographed letters signed by Crockett in 1835.
Right. One of them was to his publisher, Carrion Heart, and he was kind of inquiring about his last payment for the book, which I can relate to because, of course, I just wrote a book with my brother Jerry and my partner Jim Abrams called Surely You Can't Be Serious, the true story of Airplane. And, so he was an author. So, and he wrote 3 books. I mean, actually, it was more like 2 because... Actually, 1, because the other ones were written because he was such a legend. He was selling books. So they were kind of written for him by the publisher.
Yeah, one of them that you've donated is a book called Pictorial Life and Adventures of Davy Crockett, written by himself. Yet it was published in 1852,
right,
16 years after he died defending the Alamo.
Yeah, I think it's some of his writings, but that may have been a compilation of some of the books. I got a copy of it from somewhere. People started hearing about that I was a collector. They would write to me or, I had contacts. Once I was in this kind of Alamo Davy Crockett
club. You're in the club.
Yeah. And so I started collecting. And then I literally ran out of wall space in my house.
Then moving more into the pop culture era, you have a movie poster from 1956, Davy Crockett and the River Pirates, and then a comic book from 1955 signed by Fess Parker. So That's really when your fandom started. Right.
Well, it started, when I was 10 years old. It was a thrill getting to meet Fess Parker because, and Fess Parker, of course, as we just mentioned, he came to one of the rifle frolics. And I have my picture with him, holding the rifles and both of us in coonskin caps. And
you feel like a kid again.
We all felt like kids again because he's so tall. He's like 6'5" or something. We were all of average height, 5'10", 6 feet. And, we felt like kids.
And a lot of people, when they visit the Alamo, whether they are you, this Hollywood heavyweight, or someone coming from across the world, they get here and they feel like kids because of that childhood connection they have to the story.
Right. It's an amazing, that thing hit like, an atomic bomb, to my generation. Somehow we were just so taken with this. And it was the first miniseries. There weren't miniseries before that. And I was surprised to see later that it was even shot in color because, we only had black and white.
Were you watching it on black and white television?
Yeah, black and white television. And just once and it's gone. It's not like now you can keep
Netflix.
Watching it.
These are all really amazing artifacts you've collected throughout your life. What made you decide that now is the time to part with them?
Number one, I was really running out of wall space, and I have other art that I'm displaying, but I never had a place to donate it to. So in the last couple of years, with all the plans for all these new Alamo institutions, visitor centers, museums, this is a world-class place now, and it used to be just the chapel and the gift shop. And they had some really valuable items that were in the gift shop. It's kind of, surprising that they would keep it there. But this was an opportunity to donate to a place that had a real curator and a real home for my letter. There was literally no place to donate it to before.
Right. Now there is a world-class vault, state-of-the-art. We have the Ralston Family Collection Center that is museum level, climate controls and humidity. The Visitor Center and Museum will be open end of 2027.
Right.
So there's just more places.
More places. And this is what this place has always deserved. You could see what it could be. And I wrote letters to some San Antonio newspapers and some things just advocating this should be a destination place.
When I found out you were donating the rest of your collection, I started to think about something you said when you were here last. I asked you where you were keeping Crockett's final Tennessee letter before you donated it to the Alamo, and you said, like you said a few minutes ago, it was in a safety deposit box.
Right.
And then you made a joke. Do you remember what it was?
Oh, yeah, I think so. I said, if my house burned down, I don't care who's killed and burned in the fire, but I would care about that letter.
And it was a joke at the time, but very, very sadly, that became all too real with the fires in Los Angeles earlier this year.
Right.
Where
I did not happen to be in that area, but those people in the Palisades had no time to evacuate. They just left. And I suppose I was thinking that if that, God forbid, if that happened on my street, I was the custodian of those letters, so that's why I had copies made. I still have them in my house.
Did the fires have an impact on your decision to donate to the Alamo?
No, fires that came after I had already donated them. But I think it was more that really the decision was made because they planned this new museum with a curator and the temperature controls. I don't think my kids are going to be interested in it, and it really deserved to be here in the Alamo. And the other thing is, I bought it from this doctor, Dr. Robert Moore, who lived in Lubbock. He's passed away now, but I heard about this letter from Dr. Paul Hutton, who I'm here with today. And he said there's this doctor in Lubbock who has this very important Crockett letter. And so I called him, communicated him, said I was interested in buying it. But he wanted to meet me first because he didn't want to send it to someone who was just going to turn it over and try to sell it for a profit. So I needed to convince him that I was a actual Crockett fan. And I wanted to keep this letter. And I didn't make any mention at the time of donating or anything, but I did want it. I want it for my collection. He had us over to his house in Lubbock and invited, 50 of his closest friends over. They had a big party. And of course, I made a speech. And he agreed to sell me the collection, which had some more items in it. So it was good to get to know Dr. Moore. And then later, I invited him to one of the Crockett gatherings at my ranch. And he came, and he was delighted. And it was cool that because of our love for his historical Alamo, Crockett, et cetera, that it forged some friendships. And I still have some of these friendships with other people who are here affiliated with the Alamo.
Your roots are in comedy, so prepare yourself. I'm about to ask about emotions. What are the emotions behind parting with these artifacts, but also knowing they will forever have a home at the Alamo?
Yeah, no, I have no emotions, but because I'm just
You mean in general,
a
basically.
cold-hearted comedian. So no, I mean, other than me being very happy that I could do this, and that the other emotion that I should say, in truth, the emotion I have is in memory of Robert Moore. If he's somehow looking down on this, he would be pleased to see that I didn't just turn it over and sell it for a profit, and that I donated it to the Alamo. And it's here in Texas. It's back in Texas.
You, as you said, have been an advocate for making the Alamo a world-class historic site. You've even written state lawmakers calling on them to finance improvements. Well, since you were here last, construction is truly in full swing. So were you surprised as you walked around today to see what's new and different at the Alamo?
Not surprised, shocked. It's amazing. All the building and what they're doing with the former Woolworth and Maverick buildings. It's such a cool idea. And I love keeping the facades.
For people of a certain generation, you, Phil Collins, historians we've interviewed on the podcast, Hollywood was really the entry point into the history of the Alamo. Do you think Hollywood will ever again return to the Alamo story?
Yeah, no, I love the Alamo and everything, but for a movie, I've learned, what makes a good movie. John Wayne tried it, Disney did it, but in a Crockett story. And recently they had that Alamo movie. I wrote a Davy Crockett movie script with Paul Hutton, and this was in the early 90s. And we tried to do Crockett's life, and that was tough to do. Crockett's life, unfortunately, doesn't divide into 3 acts. However, recently I thought, okay, the way to do it was just do the period when he was in Congress, because then you have one antagonist who's Andrew Jackson, and that would work as a movie. And you could kind of maybe go forward in time to the Alamo and back in time to the Indian Wars, but it has to be in Congress, and the end of the movie has to be where he leaves to the Alamo. And I was going to have him really write the letter that I owned and show him writing that letter.
I think you need to copyright that idea before someone listens to the podcast and borrows it.
Well, there's a guy, Randall Wallace is the writer of Braveheart, and I had gone to pitch him, this was 25 years ago, in hopes that he may write my Davy Crockett movie. And he probably wisely turned it down because my idea would not have worked. It was about Crockett's son, and anyways, I didn't know what I was doing. now I hear that he's writing a movie about Davy Crockett's life. And I kind of wanted to meet with him to tell him my idea. And I don't want to be a producer. I don't want to get in on it. I don't want to be paid. I just want to have a Crockett movie done correctly. And I want to say, you got to do the congressional period. That's the heart of it. And so I called his agent, who I knew from 30 years ago. Please get me a meeting with Randall Wallace. Never got a call back.
So you may be the one person I've ever heard of in Hollywood who said, I don't want to get paid.
No, I don't. I don't. I just want to see it made. I want to see a good Crockett movie made.
Well, you have made your living in Hollywood, but at the end of the day, you are a kid from Milwaukee who loves David Crockett. So what should today's kids take away from his life and legacy?
What they should take it away is that, well, he was a great humorist. He was, as I said, he was very much like Groucho Marx, Will Rogers, Ben Franklin, a satirist. But also, he was committed to certain ideals and he wouldn't compromise. He fought the Indians, but I think he reflected on that and thought, oh my God, like, what have we done? And then when Andrew Jackson wanted to, remove all the Indians from east of the Mississippi to west of the Mississippi, and these were Indians who actually helped Jackson fight the British, Crockett stood up in Congress and fought against it. He wanted to pass his land bill, and because of that, he couldn't get his land bill passed. And Jackson hated Crockett and had him defeated in the election. And that's when he said, "I'll just tell my constituents they can go to hell. I'm going to Texas." So that's what happened, and that's the end of the movie because Crockett. And in answer to your question, I think kids today could take from the Crockett story, he was a moral guy, and he held some ideals that were more important than just expediency or money or whatever.
Or an election.
Yeah. So he sacrificed everything.
David Zucker, thank you so much for joining us.
Sure. Thanks.
Be sure to check out the podcast notes. We are linking to photos and videos of David Zucker here at the Alamo to officially donate his collection. We are also linking to the Alamo gift shop where you can buy his book, Surely You Can't Be Serious, The True Story of Airplane. Remember, every purchase from the Alamo gift shop helps us preserve the Alamo's past for future generations. You've been listening to Stories Bigger Than Texas, the Alamo Podcast.